Hello, everybody. It's Professor Rocco, your boy here, coming at you once again with another Age of Sigmar video. This time for a general series. We're gonna be, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. AoS 3 is coming down the pipe. We've heard rumors. We've got excitement coming on. There should be some video coming down from GW soon, maybe in the next week with Warhammer Fest, announcing whatever's going on to justify all the leaks and everything we've been hearing. And it's got us in a little bit of a bind here at Rocco Incorporated. Um, you know, do we make content on rules and videos for tournament players? Well, those rules are going to be changing, and so might the tournament. So before we start jumping the gun here and becoming a speculation channel, we wanted to go give you a little backstory why all this matters, why some people are excited, some people are freaking out of the prospect of GW taking what seems to be generally a good and well received edition of a game and what they're trying to do with it. So this is going to go all the way back to before I was born in 1983, uh, where we're going to go and talk about Warhammer Fantasy Battle in this lovely episode of how did we get to Age of Sigmar 3rd Edition? All right. So again, back in the day, 1983, GW just came off of being a company making minis for the Dungeons and Dragons game that just dropped. Well, their system ended up being a well-developed story. I know I bit my own tongue there saying that, where they really took a lot of things that happened in real life. Even their map was a modern globe. They fudged the edges up a little bit, and then that's where all the factions were. Where most of the fighting takes place in Europe. Surprise, surprise. You know, the lizard men with all their Aztec influences were from South America and throw the ink and stuff, and you get the idea. That was their world. They took it into this fantasy world here, and their military game was rank and flank stuff. It was you had big blocks of infantry, like a normal medieval style game, based off of real life with big air quotes. They're real life, and the lore was great and well defined. You kept playing all these battles from the past and all these noble last stands or whatever, because everything was just run at each other and kill each other with a few objectives sprinkled around. But the setting was always like, hey, we are 5 seconds away from everybody dying, because chaos is going to come down and invade and murder us all. How do we stop it? And it limited the setting and the factions involved because again, everything is so well defined. They can't make new stuff. And they tried when I was playing in sixth edition, fifth edition, sixth edition, where they did the Storm of Chaos campaign that eventually got retconned because it didn't have the world-ending catastrophe that they thought. And it was such a fun thing too because it was all the Games Workshops. It was like a competition where they had these big multiplayer battles. It was like a 20 on 20. Everybody brought like 500 points, and you all ran at each other fighting for one side or the other in the Storm of Chaos, and could the stores report the results and it would affect the events in the story being told, and I loved it as a kid and teenager. I loved it. Everybody else apparently hated it because the good guys won every battle, and I was on the good guys. So I had my Empire. I had a Hellblaster volley gun, mowing people down. My Empire Knights were fantastic. My handgunners did great. Everything was great. Everything coming up Rocco, except for their story they were trying to tell, and I left a little bit after that. So I missed the next big narrative campaign that they did that was such a world shattering thing that was moving the story forward, which ends up being now known as the End Times. Where, again, every army because before it was like you got a book maybe once in every other edition if you were lucky. That could be once every 6 years or longer in Fantasy Battle. And now it's like every army's rapid firing book, 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 supplement, supplement, supplement. Everyone's getting excited. The story's finally moving up, boys and girls. It's been 30 years. Everything's going great. And there's talk of like the Bretonians because they didn't get an army book. They're like, yeah, they're going to be in the starter box. It's going to be a whole thing as the good guy faction. It's going to be everyone dies. Yeah, spoiler alert, chaos wins. Everybody dies. Even the death people die. And some people that get propelled up to be gods and thrown away into the universe as their dying breath. And it's like, oh no, my whole game's dead. And there were lots of reasons for that. A lot of them were financial. A lot of them were the story couldn't progress. And we're gonna come now into AOS First Edition because the one of the last things was Sigmar, as we know him, gets thrown through the universe to end up coming to the mortal realms. He gets sealed by Dracothian. They bring the shell of the world that was and Malice, and they start the Age of Myth. And then you're reading the lore, and it's like everything's continued. You know, everybody's growing. He finds all the gods. He makes a pantheon. Things are great. Then the Chaos gods, who are so high off their wind, find this whole new world, and they crush it. You're like, okay, cool. The lore's reading. All right, End Times Part 2. Let's get them. You know, Sigmar's doing great. Everything's going good. And this is before you even play a game. And you're like, oh, wait, there's no points to this game. Like the models, the units have no point system to balance games. This is weird. Everything's open play. All the armies are gone and blown up. What's going on? Then you look and it says, hey, they lose this battle too. And the Age of Chaos happens. And you're like, what the hell? And then Sigmar comes down in AOS First Edition. The final bit of that lore is he comes down with his new army of Stormcast Eternals to try to kick some butt. And you know the books are a little bit far and few between. There is a lot of controversy to follow up the whole "hey, you killed our game and now you gave us one with no points." Great, cool models, great job. And then the community's like, you know what? Screw it, we'll do it ourselves. And then GW saw this, and they're like, you know, there were comps of like tournament organizer tournament organizers making up their own points for things to balance the game. People making list building sites. You know, these math hammer calculators coming through, and they're like, you know what? Let's get on that. And they come out with the General's Handbook, and they come out with ways to balance the game. And they're giving out points and allegiance abilities, and they're making army books, and slowly things are coming up and going good. And then you get the three ways to play of open play, narrative play, and match play. And that's great. And then we're slowly getting better and better here. And then like, oh no, here's another world-ending apocalypse coming through with the Malign Portent storyline. And you're like, okay, something weird's going on. Nagash is getting freaky. Is this another end times event? Oh no, are we gonna go back to fantasy rank and flank? I don't know. And then boom, Soul Wars and AOS 2 comes around. So second edition here. Now this is about 3 years after the first. And this is GW's like, hey, we're gonna go out with more battle plans because again, like first edition was the Wild West. Some had battle plans eventually, where you fought over objectives and that picked fire. And, you know, it came go up and up here to now our modern day, where we've got these pretty great battle plans with all these secondary objective scorings you can pick to break ties, and there's all these different deployments, and we still can use the open war cards. We've got all these ways to play games now, which has been great. And then this also introduced the endless spells that we now all know and love as Magic became crazy, and they GW made a pledge like every army book is going to get touched or updated for armies that don't have a book, and we're like, oh, what could that be? You know, we've got like the shattered remains of the old empire, the dwarves that didn't get rolled into fire slayers, your KO, and you know the high elves. And like, oh man, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna get new books? And then the Cities of Sigmar comes out as a swan song to all these people who still had their fantasy armies that didn't pick any of these new ones up. Like, hey, you know, this is like an olive branch, almost like an I'm sorry, and GW taking some ownership in a sense. And again, community loves it. Things are going great. Um, you know, some armies do come out a little bit overpowered. See early Slanesh, current Zinch, Seraphon. But, you know, that's three books there. And then there's some books that, as the meta shifted, that prey on some of them. Like with KO, Ideneth Deep Kid. That's five-ish problem armies that aren't even really that problematic in the grand scheme of things. Like, and then everybody else is pretty much at an even keel here. And it, you know, and then player skill starts determining your games, and you're like, okay, you know what? This is healthy enough. This is fun. This is, you know, you're giving it a good shake here. You're going through, and then they're like, hey, listen, we're gonna have this whole new series of earth-shattering events. We're gonna break the realms, and Broken Realm starts coming out, and COVID happens, and then there's, you know, everything with the Lumineth Realm Lords to pick up the whole. Oh yeah, we didn't have high elves and all their glory in the city's book because they're getting their own faction, and yes, It feels like we've been without a year without our hobby if you haven't been playing on TTS and getting games in every day like some of us have been able to, and that's okay. Enjoy your hobby your own way. You need to play in person. Guess what? We're starting to seem to come out of COVID here, and that is great. And now we hear the Broken Realms saga is going to have this last book in Kragnos. It's going to be our fourth book. And you hear all the talking heads, myself included, like, oh, we're going to have five or six. COVID obviously shortened that out. And you know what? Games Workshop is rolling with the punches here. Call me a stand for them. I don't know. If I get hate for this, I get hate for this. They're doing as reasonably well as anyone could expect with this kind of stuff. Um, and these changes, again, realms and alliances have been broken. No, not saying spoilers, but stuff happens. And again, we're seeing through these supplements and through some more army drops of these books that we're getting these updates, we're getting these teasers, and it gives me a lot of hope for AOS Third Edition. And I'm again just gonna touch on that here. Leaks and whatever aside, we're gonna need Third Edition to condense some of these supplement books and straighten out some of these rules. What it Second edition was known for its eras known as the Activation Wars. Again, if you know, you know. I'm speaking jargon, but to those people that are listening to this that know what I'm talking about, Activation Wars sucked for a lot of people involved until everybody got their own little, hey, I fight first at the start of combat or I'll stop you. And again, there's going to be growing pains like that as we wait for all these other books to get updated. And to be fair, the Broken Realm series has done a lot to get us where we need to be. I'd rate like 80 to 90% of those rules that came out and updates as good. Some of them are not earth-shattering, like the Fire Slayer update where they updated two models, but it's still good. And if we get more updates like Deepkin and the Daughters of Cain, even along with all the amazing lore that's coming our way, I am very excited for third edition and any of the changes that end up coming our way.
Hello, everybody. I'm a Rocco your girl with your fun fact of the week. On Friday, May 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a new video will be released. That's right, folks. Another video will be released this week. Professor Rocco your boy will be on a TTS battle report for our friends over at Razor Tree Productions. A link to their channel is in the description below. In the battle report, Professor Rocco Yaboy plays his famed Living City army and practices what he preaches on this very channel. So go check it out and see all of our tips and tricks in practice. And now back to Rocco Yaboy.
Thank you, Rocco, you girl. And with that, I'd like to close out this video with a reminder to like, subscribe, share with your friends. And it's time for that word of the day. You see that turtle up over my shoulder there? That's artwork of my favorite unit in the game, just from the model. I love it. I call my Leviathan Shelly Baby Girl. So let's see some Shellys in chat, all right? Yeah, let's Shelly this up. That's our word of the week, Shelly. And with that, again, like, subscribe, all the normal YouTubery bits. And it is my time to say, class dismissed.